Hello my friends, HM here. Now in today's video I'm going to show you some maps about what is happening with the Ukraine incursion into Russia. It's expanding and they seem to have a strategy, and I'm going to tell you about that. So if you think that sounds interesting, keep watching. Okay, so here we have a big map showing all of Ukraine. Russia is up here and all the red stuff here is the occupied territory of Ukraine. But what we are really interested in is what is happening up here in this spot. So let's zoom in because this is a Ukrainian incursion into Russia. This map here is called Deep State Map. It has a little trick. When you click on something, you get the square kilometers of this area. So the gray area here is where there's a lot of fighting and it's unknown who controls it, whether it's Ukraine or Russia. And it says here that this area, the gray zone here, is 600 square kilometers. That's a really, really large area compared to how slow the front lines are moving these days in this war. But this one, the blue one here, that's what Ukraine definitely control. And it's almost 500 square kilometers. Now, it should be said that Deep State Map is run by the Ukraine military, and they're not interested in showing how far they are progressed in detail. So they're always a couple of days behind. But this map just has this thing about showing how many square kilometers that we're talking about in these areas, and that's why I showed you this first. So let's go up to another map I have here. This map here, that's made by Andrew something with P. I can put a link to his maps below my video. He's not bound by any restrictions, so it's more up to date what he's reporting. Basically, he's combing the internet every day for footage. Then he posted on this map here that he updates. Now this is the 14th of August. Today it's the 15th of August, but they're always one day old, of course, because they have to gather the information and make that map and then post it on the internet. So if we go one day back, I can click here. Then we can see what has happened in the past 24 hours. And what we can see is Ukraine has established more firm control here to the east. And also over here, if you see it, Ukraine is also moving ahead here to the west, whereas they are standing still to the north. I don't see too much movement there. Okay, there is movement up here, definitely, in this direction here, towards this road here. So this is how it looks. Now there's this guy here, he's also putting up pictures. For instance, if I click this one, okay, they took this picture of this with the city sign there. So there's lots of information that he's put into this map. What you should see here is this is mandatory evacuations. This entire area here, Russia is evacuating. What happened the day before? That was the 13th of August. Here you can see the white spots here, that's Russian shelling. So Russian heavy artillery is working on this entire front here inside of Ukrainian territory, because up here we have the border between Ukraine and Russia, and they are bombarding this area. You can also see these signs here with a small airplane. That's a Russian airstrike, and also lots of airstrikes here. So lots of heavy artillery and airstrike in this area on the Ukrainian side. And the day after, they forced evacuations of all the civilians here. Now we are talking about 50,000-60,000 civilians that are evacuated from this area. From this area here, Russia has evacuated like 100,000 civilians. So it's a pretty large number. So what can we expect will happen? First they bombard this area. The day after, nothing is happening. No bombardment, no airstrikes. Perhaps because it's on the move. These forces are on the move. And here now they are evacuating. And as we can see, they are moving ahead in this direction. Now, if I was the Ukrainian army, I would not try to attack with forces that obviously are here, otherwise Russia wouldn't bombard them. I would not attack over this directly into Russia from here, because Russia has built defense lines along this border, and 10 kilometers in they have a second defense line. I have another map here that actually shows that. This is a map that is done by this Institute for Study of War. I find that fairly reliable, these maps. This is the same situation as we saw before. It's just colored differently, so it looks a little different. But they show, with a black line, they show the Russian trenches. And here there's a second black line in here. That's the second defense that Russia has built. But anyway, what I was telling is that this area over here was bombarded, and then the civilians in this area here was mandatorily evacuated by the Russians. What I think is happening is that Ukraine is now moving this very large force into this area that they control of Russia and where they have already broken the Russian defense lines, because it's really hard to get through a defense line without a lot of casualties. And then they can drive up here without casualties and then attack from behind those Russian defense lines. It's much easier. And actually there's this Snagost city that's right here. Look at, if we go one day back in this, here Snagost was not really conquered, but they were at the border. And here we can see they're moving forward. So I think this force is on the move and they're moving in here. Let's go back to this map here. What I expect in the coming days, and you can just subscribe to my channel if you want to hear about it, is that Ukraine is probably moving into this area here and trying to widen their control of the Ukrainian-Russian border. They have also expanded to the other side here, as we can see. They're moving in there and controlling this. So that's what I think is the main event happening with this Ukrainian incursion. It is that they're widening it, but they're not going so much deeper. I don't expect them actually to go much deeper, because it'll just extend Ukraine's supply lines. I think it's better for them simply to start building their own fortifications and then await for the Russian assault, while Ukraine is spending their combat troops on widening the front from behind the Russian defense lines, because now they have finally broken them. Let's go back to this deep state map. The main front line in this war is clearly this that is here, and Deep State has shown where the Russian brigades and units and divisions are stationed. All these red spots here is Russian army units, and as you can see, most of them are located here by far. And up here, how many are located here? It's almost empty. All there is here along this border is conscripts that are not very motivated and that has not signed a contract with the Russian army. They were just drawn in because they have to, and they are guarding this border here. They don't have much experience. They just come from the civilian life and get some military training in the Russian army. It's not the best soldiers that Russia has. All the contractors that are professional soldiers, they are down here fighting the war here, and it will take some time before Russia will have the better part of their army put up here. And that is time Ukraine is utilizing to expand their, you could say, buffer zone into the Russian territory so they can protect some of their cities. That's also one of the goals with this incursion here. Sumy is one of the large cities in Ukraine, and they want to protect that city from being bombarded by Russian artillery by having a good buffer zone, and now they have it. They have it here. Another city that is very large, even larger, is Kharkiv. It's right here. Unfortunately, Russia has attacked here a few months ago, actually in order to get closer to Kharkiv so they could harass them and bombard them again with their artillery. Luckily enough, Ukraine has stopped them. They only got like 5 kilometers in. If we click this area, it's 86 square kilometers, and then over here we have 97 square kilometers. So far less than the almost 1,000 square kilometers up here where Ukraine has intruded into Russia. Now, this incursion here we have from Ukraine into Russia is not the only thing that's happening on the front line. There's also happening a lot of stuff down here along the main front line, which is going right here. And you can see it's the main front line because every little red dot is Russian army units, and you can see they're just very concentrated. They are especially concentrated down here in this area. Let's zoom in. What is that area? Well, that's Avdiivka area, and if we click on it, we can see it's 570 square kilometers. It's less than what Ukraine took in 7 days. That's about 1,000 square kilometers. And Russia has taken this area here in the past 7 months or so, and they have lost like 100,000 men and 1,000 vehicles. So enormous losses, whereas Ukraine has only lost a fraction of that. But they are moving forward. If we click every day here, you can see it's getting smaller. I'm just clicking a lot. These are a lot, many days that I go back. And you can see Russia has just been taking gradually more and more in this area, and they're putting in quite a lot of troops. Now, of course, one of the strategies that Ukraine has with this incursion in Russia is to provide also some relief for these Ukrainian units down here, because they'll force Russia to take some of their units out and put them up to defend the Russian territory. They should. Otherwise, they'll just lose much more ground to Ukraine and the situation will become unsustainable for Russia. But we'll see what will happen. This is all I had for this video. Now you know the main thing that's happening at the front line. But you haven't got all the smaller stories about things, and I'll put that in my next video. So all I have to say now is I wish you a great life in freedom and democracy. Goodbye.